Welcome to the Everyone Has a Story podcast. Today we're going to be talking about joyous leadership. And when I met Mark and I read his book, the first thing I thought of, or the first person I thought of, was a guy that I got to work for. And everybody in their life at some time needs to have a very joyous leader. And we're going to get into that in a little bit, but I want to talk to you a couple of minutes about Dr. Ken Cooper. He's the founder of the Cooper Clinic down in Dallas, Texas. And I had the opportunity to work alongside him for a little bit of time. And what I found is that I've never met a guy who is so passionate about his job, but at the same time, passionate about every single human being on this earth, especially his employees. I mean, you couldn't help but just love the guy. But my story starts like this. I had to take over one of his clinics, the fitness center there in Dallas. And I was the interim general manager until we found the full-time one. And so my first day or second day on the job, I'm walking through this lobby of this health club. And I mean, it's a lobby of a 5-star resort. And I'm standing around talking to a couple of members. They're asking me a couple of questions. And I see out the corner of my eye, these two gentlemen who you can just tell are very, very antsy to come talk to me. And I'm thinking, they see that I'm the new general manager and there's probably something that they don't like. And I'm trying to have this conversation with this other couple, but I know that in the way they look, I'm going to get bombarded with something. So I finish up my conversation with this couple, and immediately these two gentlemen walk right over to me. And so I'm getting myself prepared. And about that time, they extend their hands and they go, "Dr. Cooper, I've been dying to meet you. I don't know for how long." And I looked at them, I said, "What?" They said, "We've been members here and we finally get a chance to meet you. And just by chance, I was standing underneath this life-size portrait of Dr. Cooper." And they looked up at the portrait and I turned around and I go, "Is that who you think you're talking to?" And they said, "Yeah, aren't you Dr. Cooper?" And if you look up Dr. Cooper, you're going to find that I do have a very resemblance of Dr. Cooper. I said, "No, I'm Roger. I'm just the interim general manager." And they go, "Oh, I'm sorry, but we have been dying to meet Dr. Cooper." And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what does this guy have that everybody I talk to at this club, employees and members, all they can think about is Dr. Cooper, and it's like he's a rock star. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've already met the guy. I know how important he is to health and fitness, but I really haven't spent that much time with him. But as I got to spend time with him, I have to say, I look forward to every one of those meetings, every one of those encounters, but I know so did my staff and so did anybody that he ever came around. He would come out and work out once a week, and he was like a rock star. Everybody waited for him to get off his treadmill to make sure they all got a chance to go say hello, meet him, and shake his hand. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today, because when you really think about it, leadership is a science all to itself. It really is. But what we really need to determine here is a lot of different aspects. So we're going to talk about today really is your value, what your value is worth. And so today with John Mark Watson, but today we're going to be talking with Mark. I want to introduce him because he wrote this book that really describes joyous leadership, because we all know that if we start to doubt our self-worth as an employee, as an individual, as a leader, your team in your business could start to fall short on all aspects. And that's really what we're here to talk about, is not allowing self-doubt and really understanding your self-worth, but at the same time, growing you and the business together. So, Mark, welcome. I can't thank you enough for being my guest today and for writing the book, Joyous Leadership. So please take a few minutes here and give the audience a little bit more on who really Mark Watson is.
Well, thank you, Roger, for having me. I've been looking forward to speaking with you for some time now. So we've been talking about this via phone and various things. So joyous leadership. First, let me give a little caveat. Joy, I distinguish that some people think when they read the words joyous leadership that I'm the happy guy. And I am a happy guy, but it's more deeper than that. I use the term happy is more that dopamine hit you get. It's like a bowl of ice cream, right? We like those kind of things. Or somebody compliments your nice hairstyle that you and I both sport each day.
Absolutely.
But in reality, joy is much deeper. It's a meaningful, it's a positive, meaningful leadership style. And it's even in tough times. As a matter of fact, I say that's when it's the most valuable. And so when I talk about joyous leadership, I'm talking about that. So when I did my coaching I mentor several people, and I do job coaching and personal coaching and so forth, but also my job is, I'm retired now, but as a COO, a lot of times my team would look at me and look to me for that glimmer of hope, that steadfastness, that backbone that was going to get them through this next event, this next trial. And so that was my whole focus of joyous leadership. A lot of times people would tell me, Mark, you should write that down. And for a long time, I thought, I don't know what they're talking about writing down. I don't need to write down. I felt like more of a coach instead of just an author. But finally, I started writing it down, and that's how joyous leadership was born.
Well, I can't thank you enough. And I understand that joyous leadership just an award. Please tell us about that.
Yes, it was the book in itself. It was my first book, and it's funny, I guess most authors, or at least first-time authors, we have low expectations, maybe, that our book is going to sell that well or do whatever. So the first thing I got was tremendous sales out of the book, and it's only carried online because a first-time author does not get shelf space. Now it is carried by Barnes and Noble and people like that, but it's not on their shelf. You have to order it, or you get it through Amazon and those kind of places. So it doesn't get that broad retail space that a lot of authors get. So when the book starts selling well, you're like, how do people find out about this? And so this has been out just a little over a year, and my publisher called me about 2 months ago. She said, Mark, I think you won an award. And I'm like, I did? I didn't register for anything. And she said, no, you won the Indie Book Award of the Year for your category. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And so it was the shock to all of us. You get a gold medal, a certificate, the whole thing, a little cash award. And so it had won in the business and leadership category. And so I'm so excited about that because, again, I think I like my book, and the people I've talked to like it, but I didn't realize it was getting that kind of recognition. So it was really a nice surprise.
Well, congratulations. But I also know that you've had a very stellar career, both as an entrepreneur and as a executive. So let's talk really about joyous leadership. So I know you've kind of somewhat referenced it, but give us really your true definition of joyous leadership, just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, we've all worked with various leaders, and I guess I've always loved leadership and even following a good leader, right? We've all worked with leaders that you go in and they almost sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And they were hard to work under. You worked under duress most of the time. You worked maybe even out of fear or out of obligation, if that's the right word. But then we've also had leaders. One of the ones that had the most impact on me, you walked into his office, good or bad. When you left, you felt like you could take on the world. And I knew early on in my career, that's the guy, that's the leader that I want to be. And so I've spent my lifetime studying that style and practicing that style. And I've had tremendous success both in my career as well as my personal life by taking that viewpoint. Again, it's not about just being happy. I am a happy guy, and I do want to make people happy, but that's not going to get you through the tough time just maybe because you can crack a joke in a tense situation. You've got to have something else in your arsenal. And so once I learned to do that, and I learned to have that strong backbone, that positive, meaningful leadership, then really things started to happen. Things started to change for me. Now, not everybody's going to buy in. You can lead or you can control. I chose to lead. And that's what Joyous leadership's all about.
Well, I think you're an ideal uh, distinction of Joyous leadership, because everybody that I've talked to who know you, the typical words I hear out of their mouth is, he's the salt of the earth. And I don't think there's ever probably a better true compliment than being called the salt of the earth, or being, considered the salt of the earth. So congratulations on that. Now, a big component of your book is really understanding the joy of your personal value. Explain to us what that really is.
Yeah, I think that comes from chapter 8 in my book. The subtitle of that, if you'll recall, is called "Always Be Worth More Than You're Paid." But it's the joy of knowing that, and so you do that for two reasons. One, the first and most important, you do that for yourself. You want to know that you're providing a value beyond more than what you're getting paid or what the customer is expecting. That's when they become a delighted customer or a delighted manager, boss, supervisor. And the second reason, is so your customer or your manager will know they are getting a good value. And so you can go home even after a tough day. Maybe things didn't go right. You say, you know what? I might have been paid $1, but I gave $1.50 worth of value today. And I think that allows you to sleep, that allows you to feel comfortable, that allows you to feel better about yourself and know that tomorrow I'm going to win. Just because of that value proposition that you're providing, not only, again, to your customer, but to your manager and even for yourself. And let's say that job, for whatever reason, evaporates. It plays out, layoffs, business closes, or whatever. You can walk away with that extra value in your heart, knowing what you provided. That's going to give you an air of confidence that many others around you will not have.
Well, and that's what I really love about your message and you yourself, is that, yes, when you reach that level of confidence and you truly believe in it and you know your value, you open yourself up to learn so much more, because you don't have those fences wrapped around you, those barriers to say, it's my way or the highway. You've opened yourself up. You opened up a lot of doors to hear other people's input and advice. And I know in the book you referenced your running partner's advice to you that he gave to you. Why don't you share that with us?
Well, I had a lot of good examples, but one of my best ones, I guess, he did it jokingly a lot of time. That he was 20 years my senior, but he could beat me in every race, and it was very annoying because I'm thinking I'm younger. To look at my body versus his, you would bet on the stallion, right? Not on the older horse, maybe, but every race he would finish ahead of me, and then he'd go get 2 bottles of water, one for himself, and bring me one and meet me at the finish line. And one time we were running and we were getting ready to run on a training run, and he said, there was me and 2 or 3 others. We all ran together. And he said, if anybody wants to talk, I'll listen. And I should have took that as a key component, because I was a little bit more chatty while we were running. But when you're running, you don't need to be chatty. You
Exactly.
need to be conserving that energy in your breath. And so it wasn't so much advice as just an example of how he outran me all the time and outtrained me and everything. But he was just quite the mentor, and led me to the point where I eventually compete in marathons. So just some good advice there for anyone. You might want to listen more than you speak.
Exactly. And we can take that advice back, really back to the workplace, because, in today's world, there's a lot of frontline employees, a lot of mid managers who are leaving organizations because of the leader, and they never felt that they had an opportunity, number one, to speak. And when they did speak, that they were even being listened to. And so that advice is sage advice for all of us in all aspects of our life. So let's take your message that you just presented. Now let's take it to the world. As I just mentioned, the business community is going through a lot of changes. There's a lot of individuals out there who don't want to go back to that workplace for a variety of reasons. And to me, I think it comes down to ownership and leadership. And so, how does your message today apply to what's going on in the world today in the business community?
Roger, I think if you build a good team and you have that team to style ownership, who wants to stay away from the team? Nobody does. They may I know I just recently retired, but we never made a mandate for our employees to come back, and they all returned. We still have a hybrid policy in place because some of them is beyond their control. Because of child care or whatever, they're having to do a few things, but they still work in the office 80-90% of the time. Why did that happen? Because we build a team of camaraderie, and you want to be where the team's at. I think these businesses that are having trouble getting their employees back, they may need to look at their internal model. What are they not offering? It's not, I hear about Google and some of the big guys, they have everything from cafeterias to coffee bars to sushi bars, and yet none of their people want to come back. Well, you know what? That's not why they work. They work there either for the money or for the team atmosphere. Everybody wants to be on a team. And there are cases, we have analytics people. They're almost like photographers. They need to be in a dark room. They need that quietness, that solace, and we're okay with that. But for those that are leaders and managers and movers and shakers, they need to be in the atmosphere of the team. So if we have a team that's not wanting to rejoin, we have to look first at the internal model. What are we not allowing that team to do, and how are we not allowing that team to operate for them not to want to come back? Then you're not going to win everybody. It's like any leadership model. That's why I prefer to lead instead of control. That way I can see who's not following, or I can see who's not buying in, and I can address that on a one-on-one basis or address by the group dynamic as a whole. So then you can see what you've really got in people that are bought in, and then address it from that point forward. I think we're going about the wrong way issuing mandates. I just don't think that's where we're at.
So let's narrow down the scope of the audience to the employees, the mid-managers, executives, the owners. What would you say to these individuals right now to have a better understanding of their self-worth, how to help build their confidence around what their self-worth is, and how to be a better leader with those three components?
Yeah, that's a great question. That, starting with the individual, let's just say the individual person, the way you develop that self-worth, again, nobody is really going to give that to you. You may gain some from a few compliments here and there, but that's more like the dopamine hits I'm talking about. Those feel nice, the compliment. Maybe it's genuine, maybe it's not. But the self-worth that you get internally that you need to start with, and that's, first of all, I'm going to be better at my job and more knowledgeable in my job than they're paying me for. So that means I'm going to be a student. Number one, I'm going to continue to learn. I'm going to find outside resources. I'll find internal resources. I'll find peer groups, because I want to be just a vacuum cleaner, a vacuum of all information that I can get, have a better arsenal to do my job, a better arsenal of tools. And so that's going to give me some internal work, and I'm going to practice those tools. I'm not just going to put those in a toolbox. I'm going to learn to use those tools. So I'm going to become better at using those tools, better at articulating my positions, better at articulating my programs, my plans. So that's that. Again, that's starting with me. That's starting with self. And then as a manager, what can you do to help drive that? Some people don't know what I just told you. You can't imagine the number of people that I mentor that I give that same speech to. I said, "What are you doing to learn more about your job?" "What do you mean? I graduated college." "Well, I do the job every day." But they don't understand that they've got to sharpen that, that skill set continually. And so as a manager, we have to help them self-assess and help them provide that path, if you will. Some people call it a career path. I choose not to use that words exactly. I call it growth path because you don't always know where a career path is always going to, what opportunities are going to come up. But a growth path, you can't hardly stop anybody from growing. And that growth path that they have, you can help them realize that growth path. So that as the owner or manager, you have to provide those environments as for your employees or your associates to learn and grow and feel like they're being heard, feel like they're being nurtured, if you will. And then it's a win-win. Once you do that, you've got a win-win situation.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about finding those people, those resources, those peers that really represent who you really want to be. And there's been a lot of studies done that says that you start to really represent and replicate the 5 or 6 people that you're closest to in your life. And so when you're looking at that circle and you truly know what your goals and aspirations are, choose wisely on who you want to have in that circle, correct?
That's so correct. What do they say? You can't, you can't wallow the pigs and then expect to smell like a rose. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, we've now kind of set the stage. Let's get to the bottom line. And I don't mean financial bottom line, but really the ROI on investing on becoming this more joyous person, either employee, manager, or leader. What are some of the real impact and benefits that you're going to receive by living and leading this style?
I'm learning this every day, even more so. It's something I hope I always stay as a continuous learner, but so I've even had more enlightenment since I've switched from the COO mainly. I'm still consulting, but as to more of a coach, if you will. The thing that how many of us have seen sports teams? They've got all the components, then they got great players, but they really kind of stink as a team. But yet the management has bought the best money can buy. Maybe they bought the best. If it's baseball, they've got the best catcher pitcher combo. They've got the best shortstop. They got some of the best hitters, fielders, or whatever. But they're not winning games. They're just not winning games. So you got to go, wow, bad luck. I say no. I think it's a team dynamic. So when you have this joyous leadership model, this positive, meaningful relationship model, you can take players that are not necessarily the star players and win championships because they believe in what they can do. Not only that, they believe they can do more than what they're able to do and capable. You empower that team to grow. You empower that team that the sky's the limit. You empower that team to believe in each other. That's what you get with joyous leadership. The other model to that, the inverse of joyous leadership, again, is really a control mandated leadership type model. And what you'll get there maybe is a little bit of consistency, but you're not going to be that. It's not going to be that much fun. You're going to get your outcomes that you get, whatever those determined to be. But at the end of the day, you're going to be exhausted. It's going to be a gift. If you pay $1, you're going to get $1 worth. There's going to be no heart and soul into that organization. It's going to be mechanical. I like the heart and soul model where people are willing to take those risks, controlled risks within their abilities and even beyond their abilities into their own thinking. And you'll have more fun. The day will just fly by. The day will just be like minutes, and it will be for your employees. You get to the end of the day, you won't be as exhausted. You'll be empowered. You'll be overjoyed, actually.
So let's put that coaching hat on that you just referenced and tell us how you get someone to feel that they are of value and the value that, as you just represented it, even more capable of doing things that they didn't even know themselves that they could do.
Well, I'll give you. I like to tell stories, and I can give you an example of that. I made a movement with a gentleman um, probably a couple of years ago. He earned the promotion, if you will, but he got in the job and just it was just not his cup of tea. He just it was as much my mistake as his. He wanted the job, and I wanted to move him. And so the natural way, or some ways people look at that is that you can either lose his job or you demote, if you will. But instead, we went through several coaching sessions. And I kept affirming him what he was good at, and he already knew what he was good at. And we finally coached him into a lateral job, a lateral move. We had an opening for, and he flourished in a way that I even surprised me. We moved him into a business analytics role that we had open for some time, couldn't find anyone for it. And he took that job and he made all of our lives better. And he was so happy, he had a pep back in his step. And so he made us better. He made himself better. But you got to get to a point where you know your employee or you know your associate, you know who you're coaching. And I mean, know as much as you can know. I have a friend of mine that tells me, he says, don't ever have a conversation with Mark Watson because you'll think you've been frisked when you're done. He feels like he's frisking you. And that's what I do. I like to know, what your likes are, what your dislikes are, what are your phobias, what are your strengths, where do you feel like your strong points are. And I think that's what we miss as an organization. We get, especially the higher we get, I hire executives, right? I don't hire lower level people in my position. And so you expect them to already do that job. But sometimes they have to be coached and motivated even more so because they are professionals and they are already maybe good at what they do, but they still lack that last little meaningful motivation, that last little empowerment, if you will, to outperform their expectations. I like for people not just do the job. I like for them to excel at what they're doing and also feel like they're excelling.
Yeah, no, those are great examples because they are real life examples. Thank you. Mark, I can't thank you enough for being my guest speaker today. Give us some final words of inspiration to really get us on that path, at least mentally, on really believing in our true value and understanding and acknowledging what our true value is.
Okay. Well, let me first of all say I personally, as bad as COVID was, I think there's going to be some great things that have resulted out of it. I think the quiet quitting, the refusing the people to come back to work, it's going to force us as leaders to rethink our value proposition. So this is not an employee problem. This is us problem, right? Let's start, anyone listening, let's start with your own personal value. Don't worry about, well, nobody values me, is what you may say. That's what you like to hear at the water cooler. Well, I'm not paid what I'm worth, but well, good. That's a good start. But that should be the reason you stop growing. So let's look at ourselves and invest in ourselves. And let's get to the point where we can say, you know what, Roger, I'm a pretty good value. I'm going to be a pretty good value to my employer, to my customer. They're going to, when they buy goods from me, they're going to feel like they've got a really good value. That's the first thing. But the real test is, it doesn't matter what we think, right? It's what our customer thinks. It's what everybody's got a customer. And it could be your manager, it could be your CEO, it could be your chairman of the board, your shareholders, or whatever. Everyone has a customer. Then, as we develop that internal value, watch what they start. Watch how they change toward us. All of a sudden, they're going to feel that value too, because you can't hide it. It's going to come out internally. And so I say we start with ourselves and watch what happens to the world around you. It's going to open up for you. It's going to do wonderful things for you because other people are going to share that value proposition with you.
Oh, that's great closing advice, and thank you for that. Mark, how can the listeners get a chance to purchase your book, read your book, and get a hold of you if they want to reach out and have conversations with you?
What's available online anywhere the book is? It's Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble, any of the .coms. Excuse me. Any of the .coms carry the book. If you need to get a hold of me, my email is easy. I answer all my emails. My email address is easy to remember, johnmarkwatson@gmail.com. I also have a website that's also easy to remember, johnmarkwatson.com. And I correspond a lot through that. I do a lot of public speaking, but I will warn you that I'm booked through August. I only book one major event a month. And so September is my first month that is available. So those go pretty fast. I'm usually fully booked by the fall of the year. So I figure out about another couple of months, all those spots will be taken. But I enjoy speaking at corporate conferences. I've done 3 already this year with major corporate events. And I've got one more coming up really quick. So those are the two best ways, through my website and through my email.
Well, once again, thank you very much. This has been great advice and real advice. You're a great guy. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.